Hi, I'm Susan Talbot. I'm the Executive Director at the Fabric Workshop and Museum. And we're here tonight to celebrate and hear from Jacolby Satterwhite. Woo! But before I say a few words about Jacolby, I want to thank our co-sponsors for this event, the University of Pennsylvania Stuart Weitzman School of Design and the Sachs Program for Arts Innovation, who have partnered with us in this lecture tonight. Thank you. Last month, the Fabric Workshop opened the exhibition, Jacolby Satterwhite, Room for Living, which brought Jacolby's digital realms to life in our galleries for his first solo museum exhibition. Now, Jacolby is only 33, but when, oh, am I allowed to say that? but when I read that this was your first museum exhibition, I was shocked because I thought you would have had, you know, with your reputation and everything we hear about you, I was really honored that the Fabric Workshop could present this first exhibition. So that was really great. And the show opened to critical acclaim. It's already enjoyed many, many favorable reviews in the Brooklyn Rail, in Hyperallergic, in The Observer, the Philadelphia Inquirer. Basically, the whole art press has embraced Jacolby and his work. And if you haven't seen the exhibition yet, entitled Room for Living, please be sure to come to the Fabric Workshop before it closes on January 19th. So you have plenty of time. Jacolby was also recently featured in the Artsy Vanguard 2019 New Leaders of Contemporary Art, as a new leader in contemporary art. And he's also done interviews where the show has been commented on with the New York Times Style magazine, T Magazine, and Interview magazine, and Jacolby and our PR folks tell us that there's lots more coming. So there has been great recognition already for this project. Jacolby's videos have been called hallucinatory dreamscapes and science fiction dreams rendered in 3 dimensions. And when you see them at the Fabric Workshop, you will agree, and you can also see them in virtual reality. Since receiving his MFA here at Penn in 2010, the trajectory of his career has been an impressive one. Jacolby is represented by Mitchell Innocent Nash in New York, Moran in Los Angeles, and the Lundgren Gallery in Mallorca, Spain. His work is featured in the collections of the Museum of Modern Art in New York, the Whitney Museum, and the Studio Museum in Harlem, among others. And his current show at the Fabric Workshop includes recent highlights of his collaboration with singer-songwriter Solange Knowles on her 2019 album, When I Get Home. It was recently screened at the ICA as part of the Black Star Film Festival, and he has the upcoming release of a new album to look forward to very shortly. Collaborating with the Fabric Workshop as an artist in residence over the past 2 years, Jacolby has reimagined elements from his acclaimed digital animation work spanning nearly a decade. Building on scenes and motifs featured in 2 groundbreaking series, Reifying Desire and Birds in Paradise, the exhibition at the Fabric Workshop features multimedia installations that bring some of those drawings and animations to life in physical form for the first time. And I just have to say that our studio staff at the Fabric Workshop worked hand in hand with Jacolby to create these miraculous and marvelous objects. We did 3D printing and CNC machining. I didn't know what they were before this project, but we had a 3D printer on site for about a year that produced so many of the objects in the show. Over the past decade, Jacolby's videos have also incorporated drawings of his late mother, Patricia Satterwhite, bringing a spectrum of personal and art historical references into what he refers to as the age of remix. Jacolby's time here tonight is a bit of a homecoming because, as many of you know, he was a student here at Penn. And I asked Jacolby what I could say that would, what can I say, wake people up after this long, read introduction. And at the opening, Jacolby had mentioned to me right before the opening, when we talked about his time at Penn and asked him if he was going to see some of his old classmates, Jacolby said, yeah, and are they going to be jealous? But I said, you know, I just can't use that line twice. And so I asked Jacolby what else I could say. And he said, tonight, standing up at this podium, I'm going to get revenge on all of my graduate school teachers who gave me a B+. And one of the teachers who didn't give Jacolby a B+ is Jackie Tileston. You gave Jacolby all A's, didn't you, Jackie? Yes. Of course you did. Of course you did. And Jackie is also a professor of painting here at Penn, and Jackie is now going to come up and say a few words. Thank you.
Pretty sure we gave him a pass. So Jacolby arrived at Penn with his figurative paintings, photographs of childhood dance parties, and his mother Patricia's drawings of household objects she had designed, trying to figure out how this could be woven together. Bedlam ensued. After doing performance seminars and animation, and eventually leaving painting behind, though not his raucous sense of color and pattern, Jacolby's unique synthesis of body, biography, ritual, movement, and fantasy began to emerge, an exuberant and complex display of what Nicolas Bourriaud called post-production. Those 7-foot-tall figures at the fabric workshop with monitors embedded in their heart cavities were a total flashback. There is video with one of Jacolby's first performances in the White Room, buck naked, crawling and sliding across the slippery floor, across a photograph of a tea cell towards the camera and audience. Needless to say, that was a truly memorable MFA moment. The full-on integration of these modes into whirling 3D animation and live-action performances led to breakthrough shows at the Studio Museum of Harlem and the Whitney Biennial in 2014, and he has been showing regularly in galleries and institutions globally since. Jacolby World is now unstoppable. Personal mythologies, notions of home, desire, queer utopias, the architecture of imagination, all whirl inside of neon planets of hallucinatory liberation, both gorgeous and grim. This is a world in which Dolly and Dune meet Road Warrior, only with disco balls. Riding avatars inhabit an exquisitely jeweled ghost ship, or are traveling over apocalyptic landscapes, going nowhere but on winged horses, and you've never seen anything like it. As Susan indicated, Jacolby's nonstop energy is still rolling with current projects, including the solo shows at Brooklyn's Pioneer Works, the Fabric Workshop and Museum, the video for Solange, the new album and book, both called Love Will Find a Way Home. And I am pretty sure that Jacolby badly needs a spa day. We are very happy to welcome Jacolby back to Penn. Thank you.
a wonderful turnout. So that was an amazing double introduction that leaves me in tears almost, but I'm not going to give you that. Let me start this over. Okay, so it feels really, really poetic and amazing to be back here, which is where I feel like I came from, where I truly felt like my, agency as an artist was born, based on like really beautiful instances of serendipity from just like living and working as hard as I can here. I remember when I was at UPenn, I can tell all of my illegal secrets now that I can't get expelled. But I remember being so committed to I was very grateful to receive a full scholarship to come here and like really incubate on very important ideas straight out of undergraduate school, because I was around, I came here at the age of 21 or 22, and I immediately, it was kind of like I was expediting maturity that wasn't ready to be incubated yet, but I was sort of just forcing it out of an urgency to get the idea out. And so I came here, with a box from Baltimore, and I remember Terry Atkins, who's not with us anymore. I remember him coming up to my studio. I was still taking stuff out of my U-Haul truck, and he was like, "Sit down with me." and I sat down with him, and he made me pull out my broken Apple laptop and look up. This is 2008, and the first thing I looked up was, he said, "Look up Grace Jones, Corporate Cannibal." I was like, "What?" And so I looked up Grace Jones, Corporate Cannibal, and we looked at the video together, and he was like, "Look at this. Motherfucker, Madonna could never." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" "Yes, I love it. I love Grace Jones." He was like, "See, this is what you need to learn. I bet you she pulled out her iMac and recorded herself and distorted it and turned it in." And she's like, "That's what you need to become. You need to find economy in your gestures." Like, he was basically automatically putting me in the mindset of intimidation, but also allowing me to see what I need to become through something that was kind of lowbrow and just not, I felt it was a different, already I knew I was coming into a different experience. And I would say that was my experience in the program the whole time. Like, I took Jackie's critical theory classes, and she had made us print out these large, like, biblical index of, like, oh my God, it was just the craziest, like, amount of knowledge I had to immerse myself in. And to the point where I got rid of my apartment and I lived in my studio and showered at Patrick Gym. I know I'm just revealing it all, right? But I really was like, I'm going to really nail down the core of what I'm supposed to be doing and what kind of arts I'm supposed to be making here, and that's what I did. It was really an amazing time. It was just really great to soak in all that information and really find out how I was going to choose to define myself from then on. I got so addicted to that kind of incubating process that I resumed doing 12 residencies or 14 residencies straight after school, to the point where I just was on this hamster wheel of like pedagogy. But anyway, moving on, I kind of want to proceed to talk about the work, but I just want to say, for me to be back here, which is a place that really put in a specific kind of, I guess, artistic urgency in me. Even though I had it, and I was at Micah, I felt like, it feels great. So anyway, cool. So to get back to, where we're looking at right here, I thought after finishing these two exhibitions at the Fabric Museum and Pioneer Works, I thought I would be done with my intros being the Matriarch's Rhapsody, but it's still here. This video is called the Matriarch's Rhapsody, and it's what I usually use as an intro kind of like video to kind of like get people warmed up for the other processes and concepts that I've been dealing with. So now I'm just going to do it again. Okay, so The video we're looking at is the Matriarch's Rhapsody. On the left is my mother's drawings. In the middle are the drawings three-dimensionalized and colored in Maya, and on the right are the family photographs that contain the same material culture that my mother was describing in the drawings, which is, I find poetic because I feel like the photos were being taken at the same time the drawings were being made, but by two different authors, and it's sort of like this triangulation cyclically between three different authors and three different timelines, and that kind of build up a, like, you know, a genealogical mythology that helped me build a, you know, ultimately a bigger body of work. I was making smaller videos like this for a while, but this was the one that really, really helped me figure out the codex for my language as an artist. Well, so basically, when I first came to University of Pennsylvania, I had large paintings with me, and I was making all these paintings, but the kind of, you know, mark making and expression behind my paintings didn't necessarily connect with the way I was trying to resolve, you know, other bigger and more important things conceptually. You know, painting has a 400-year history that, especially in a, you know, a political climate that we were emerging in without knowing, you can't be black with an impressionist stroke with having liability to some kind of strange, dark-loaded history. And so the painting and the mark making that I was doing was just getting in the way with the conversation and my critiques when I was in school. So I felt like, you know, I had to put that on the back burner because I really wanted to have control over my conversation. And what did I have control over? My own body. My own personal mythology, my own blackness, my own, you know, like the pared down drawings that were in my suitcase that my mother made. And I was like, well, I'm gonna, you know, figure out how to generate an interdisciplinary lexicon from those kind of archives that I had at my immediate disposal. So I started to experiment with my research in Fluxus and Dada performance histories and how elements of chance in performance were done in the 30s to resist the history of painting, to resist propaganda, to resist the distracting conversations behind art as a medium. So it felt like I was doing something right when I was doing a crazy transgressive performance, like using my body as a redaction tool on a T-cell in the middle of Meyerson or Morganville. So I continued to do those performances. I performed in guerrilla performances in Sachs Avenue in New York City, or in Central Park, or in Prospect Park. I was very much so like in that bright-eyed period of time where the art of embarrassment and transgression was my radical way of like erasing myself and my ego so I can, you know, find my personal gift or find something that matters. Because that's what I learned from people who I was, who were my heroes. Like, you gotta like erase yourself in order to like become yourself. So then I went to Skowhegan with that work, and I continued to develop it. But one thing I found missing is you know, I'm a maker at the end of the day. Like, I'm not a performer really. In my heart, I'm just a maker. And I really have to make a mark. I really have to draw, and I really have to paint, and I really have to make decisions. And so when I was leaving Skowhegan and doing so many other performances, I felt empty still. So I started to, you know, do some guerrilla research on post-production processes and After Effects, and eventually I discovered Maya, and I really, through trial and error, I discovered a way to use the Wacom tablet, the digital pen, and trace my mother's graphite lines in Maya, extrude them, and create architectural landscapes to kind of, you know, create these pastoral concerts like what I would admire in a Titian painting, or a Rubens painting, or a Bosch painting, or I was able to, or a German expressionist neo-Rauch painting. I was able to create, to really, you know, address my visual concerns with the painting mediums and history that I was interested in, but not able to resolve, but in a way that can be fourth dimensional and allow me to have my cake and eat it too. I could composite my performance practices into these virtual spaces and create time-based experiences that are just as formal and exciting as the things I was trying to do on canvas. And so this was kind of the template for me to do that, which is when you see me using my mother's drawings, turning them into these colorful sculptures, into this legend, because legends were a huge thing for me when I was a kid too. Like when I would get like a G.I. Joe toy set and on the back they had this thing and where you put the gun, you know, like, or a legend in a J.R.R. Tolkien book that would talk about, you have to learn the Elven language before you read the book, or read all the maps in Final Fantasy VII in order to understand how to get like secret. Like, I love the idea of world building since I was a child, because in a way world building, for me, I mean, that was a form of escapism and, you know, living in a modern chaotic home and having lots of illnesses and, you know, sometimes you gotta look at the skeptical in mass worlds in order to kind of survive in a way. I mean, the way that this work proceeded to move forward to something more poignant is that I was like, well, I'm making, I like the idea that these drawings existed in past landscapes in the family photographs, but I was like, how can I continue to push that forward? And so since I was talking about how like, so when I think about like painting and modernism and painting, like if you think about the Burial of Ornan by Courbet, which is a controversial early modernist painting of him depicting a middle-class family at a funeral when you were supposed to use paintings to only depict the high class. I was like, well, how can I observe a lowbrow medium like a camcorder video of my family at a cookout performing a Mother's Day, and I can elevate that video all the way to a 3D animation of me re-performing that narrative and taking control over this blue-collar thing. So I'm just going to show you the video. Hope I'm making sense to you guys. So this is... So this video's funny. Well, that's me, a little green baby. And those are my brothers. And so what I found really funny about this is because my brothers came back from like Paradise Garage and Limelight. They used to collect these like disco and house music tapes that really weren't, you wouldn't find normally at a black family cookout in the 80s. You know what I mean? Like music associated with like kissing next to some guy in a red room at a like, you know. It's not gonna, so I found that intersection really funny because it was just like that kind of intersection. And so what I also found really interesting is that this video documents the earliest stages of me demonstrating a sort of inclination towards homosexual behavior in regards to like, I only imitated my female cousins and I only wanted to dance with them. And they kept pulling me away from them, and then there's this one really concrete part where my cousins were even rejecting me. The female cousins, they were like, get away! You're supposed to be dancing with the boys, and they're doing their Janet Jackson routine, and I'm like, bitch, I can do So I want to show you that really quick. And I love the electric slide part, too, that's really important. And so, but I want to also say, at the time I was reading a lot of Robert Farris Thompson's Flash of the Spirit and taking classes at Penn. I was trying to incubate this piece for a while before I actually figured out how to execute it. But I was obsessed with Yoruba Gallaudet masquerade culture and how they do these tribal performances that celebrate the matriarch figure, and it's a very postmodern practice that involves taking things from ancient traditions and new traditions. Like there's some components where if they saw like a plane flying in the sky, that will become a part of the headdress. And so that form of ritual was something that gave me like a sense of autonomy and like style to like understand how to execute this piece. But before we proceed to how I did respond to this piece, I want to play this really, really funny part. Where I'm like, girl. So I'm like hanging out with my sisters. They're like, my mom with the green pants doing that crazy dance. Oh wait, it's coming. Let me see if I can. So you see him like anxiously trying to get his Janet routine. Those are my brothers. So like, put us on camera for a minute, and my dad has the camera. They're telling me to move out the way. And now I'm crying because I'm like, and they're doing a Janet routine. This is how I am at a lady fact party every week. I'm like, quiet, knuckling. Okay, so I think that's the first thing I'll show my therapist when I finally, take that time. So anyway, so this is how I made it into a film. Oh, so I took all the drawings that my mother made of American material culture, like KFC buckets, Jeep cars, carousels, I don't know, pans and pots and aluminum foil, whatever I found from those diagrams of her redundant inventions, which I love, and I kind of made a figurative landscape tableaus to composite my body and reanimate that scene, taking control over it, because now I'm performing all of their bodies now. So, but then it becomes this destabilized capitalist consumerist paradise that goes awry and falls into the pits of hell. So but trust me, it's not a critique. It's not. I promise. Video starts out like, but now it's kind of constant, like this pastoral concert folly, and then it begins to collapse in this period. So it's the first time I successfully sort of executed that kind of language. collapses in itself. But my favorite part is there's this kind of like cool moment where I got to rotoscope the whole camcorder footage, and I turned it into this like nice drawing, like a little like this giant colorless traveling video kind of eats up the whole animation and dissolves it into a contour drawing. But I just thought that like constellation moment was kind of cool. So that's how it ends. Turned off or down? Is that possible, or is it too late? Don't worry if it isn't. Oh, sorry. Just for some mood. Thing? Oh, it's fine if not. Better mood. It's lucid. It's okay, don't worry. No, it's all gravy. So after I did Country Ball, I proceeded to work on, I kind of wanted to, I kind of like work, I still work this way. I'm like an extreme pendulum where like if I feel like there's a predictability behind something, I have to go all the way the other way just because I get frustrated by my own self. And just I spend a great amount of unbalanced extreme time making these things, so like I get sick of myself constantly before people can even digest what they probably liked about the situation. So I was kind of like, no more of the, I was keeping my mother's archive and my collaboration with her as, as like, I consider it a conceptual primer or gesso, or a foundation to kind of build on top of for my own present conceptual concerns. So I wanted Reimagined Desire, that series that came after Country Ball, to kind of interrogate more stuff from, less stuff from familial space and more like wherever I was at the period of time. And at the period of time, I was still in a more private zone because I was doing lots of residencies, but I definitely was negotiating a lot of personal things and obsessed with certain art historical motifs that I felt like eventually I figured out how they related to what I was dealing with at the time. But anyway, I want to show the final chapter of Reimagined Desire. It was the piece that showed at the Whitney Biennial in 2014. And so the funniest thing about this video is that every chapter of Reimagined Desire was a different kind of gestation cycle, like a birth cycle, because if you think about animation, I was studying animation, teaching myself animation, but like the way I teach myself things is I like to like start with something really, really banal and as stupid as possible for me to kind of generate much more complex things around, because I feel like that's easy to do. So I thought like, well, what is the first thing you should do as an animator? What do animators do when they're at Cal Arts at the first day? Hey kids, let's make a flip book of a flower growing up the ground. Okay, so I'll focus on life. I'll focus on things developing. I'll focus on a very linear like cycle or a system. So gestation, and then it was also it's tongue-in-cheek too because I have this matrilineal collaboration. So anyway, every chapter was kind of like hearkening on that and making the drawings make those landscapes happen. But chapter 3 dealt with the Caravaggio Doubting Thomas motif, and chapter 4 kind of proceeded with that, and then chapter 5 dealt with Le Demoiselle d'Avignon as like prostitution gestation cycle. Do not ask me. Maybe you can ask me later at the Q&A. But so chapter 6 was really interesting because I knew I was going to show it at the Whitney Biennial, and I was like, well, I got to end this with a bang. It's the last chapter of the series. So I was like, well, what is a very irreverent, interesting way for me to kind of do that? And it was the first year of prep in 2014 when everybody was, and that's kind of like being in my conscious at the time made me want to collaborate with this very controversial bareback porn star at the time, Antonio Biaggi. And so I had him come by to my studio and breathe me in my studio on green screen, and then I composited in the video and made the whole scene around him getting me pregnant and have babies, and that was in the Whitney Biennial. But it was kind of like an umbrella of thought that was, you know, me being irreverent around a serious topic and doing that, and, you know, you'll see it in the video.
Oh, God.
All right. refers to one of the sculptures at the Fabric Museum, the Room for Doubt, the big giant hallway. So that shows up twice, no, 3 times in it. 3 or 4 times in the Reimagined Desire series. Chapter 3, 4, 5, and 6. And so that's that tableau that you see in the Fabric Museum. But it's a reoccurring thing, which I might explain later. I want to kind of move forward. Okay, so after this series, because the next chunk of work that I'm about to show, how am I doing on time?
7:24.
I mean, like, how many more minutes? I know I'm supposed to do a 20 minute. I know. Who can like give me that number?
20 minutes.
Huh?
20.
We have 20 minutes?
25, 20 minutes. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And then Q&A.
Yeah,
Oh, 20 minutes and then Q&A.
yeah, 10 minutes and then 10.
Okay. Let me just get this out of my So I basically, so after the biennial and Reimagined Desire was over, I was like sick of this shit, let's move on. And I was having a lot of cool studio visits, and one of the cooler ones with Francis Miguel from San Francisco Museum of Modern Art. And he invited me to his Airbnb, and we had a bottle of wine. He was like, what kind of idea would you come up with this big grant we'll give you to do this thing for 2 years? And I was drunk, and I said, I'm gonna make a concept album. No, I'm gonna give you the stupidest idea I can think of. A concept album. Which was not a stupid idea, it was just something I've been trying to do since I was at graduate school. I remember my first refund check from University of Pennsylvania. I used to buy so much Starbucks and insomnia cookies with them. So I got Logic 9, it's this prosumer technology music thing. And I was teaching myself how to make music at UPenn, but I was like, this is not for me, I'm not good at it, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. So I focused on animation. And so when San Francisco MoMA presented me with the idea, and I knew this is what I've always wanted to do, and I knew that with the kind of scale and the budget and the time frame I had, I knew that I was going to be able to really resolve it this time and take it to another level. So I was like, well, let's go do it. So I went to my friend Nick Weiss's house in Brooklyn, and I presented him the idea, and I said, it's going to be a team effort. You know, I'm splitting this budget with you, and we're going to just spend 2 years together and become best friends, and which we did. I mean, we used to spend 8 to 9 hours in the studio together making this record. You know, so basically I wanted to make a concept album. The concept album that was inspired by Tricky from Bristol, England, who made an album personifying his mother. But mine was more personal because it was, not more personal, but it was my mother, when I was a kid, and when she was in and out of the mental hospital, she would record these folk R&B songs and gospel songs and kind of new age songs on this tape recorder. And she would use her thigh as a metronome and her pencil on the table as a metronome, and it would embarrass the shit out of me when I would have my friends come over to play video games, because she'd be like, that is a hit! And I'm like, oh my God, that's scary. And she would perform till 3 a.m. when I had school, and I was like, oh my God, my mom's singing these songs still. She got math like 155 acapellas, but when I'm in, weirdo white girl Sally art school and seeing her doing her things, I'm like, wait, my mama was very interesting. Like, I mean, you have to go into like liberal arts for so many years, you become very eccentric yourself. So I'm like, wow, I really need to make this thing. It's very urgent. And so basically, I basically took the pared down acapellas, and me and Nick and me, we kind of like I wanted to make an electronic dance music, trip hop, drum and bass, eclectic album, acid house mostly. I wanted to pull from genres of unsung heroes of techno, lots of like black gay techno people who I love, like Mr. Fingers and Larry Heard, Arnold Jarvis, like the stuff that my brothers took me to the gay clubs to hear when I was 13. Like I wanted to kind of be a revivalist of that sound, but bring in my mother's cassettes, and I wanted to make a virtual reality production with it, that was feature length, and I wanted it to just be syndicated properly. And all of this stuff has happened with the help of San Francisco Museum of Modern Art, the Fabric Museum Workshop, and Pioneer Works. Pioneer Works is showing the full-length feature animation in the black box there, and the sculptures and parts of the video are at Fabric Museum. And so basically, I'm going to let this play for 5 minutes, and because you guys gave me 2 bottles of water, I need to pee. And I'll be right back. Okay, well, I have to pee, so let's go.
producing shores, water in waiting form, shaking yours, shuffling my feet,
Let's be in Shanghai.
stone underneath,
Went all over the world to make this
picking
project.
them up, one foot in front of the other. Thought-provoked opportunities centered in souls, voices that keep us up at night. Mother, make it feel alright. Push come to shove, the court is so loud. No.
And then that translates into this. Okay, I just want to make you want to go to Pioneer Works. Okay, how about a Q&A? Whoever wants to talk to me.
Can I talk?
Sure.
Yeah, we're gonna send a mic around.
Yeah, do whatever you want to do.
Good microphone. Thank you, Jacolby. I'm Sonny Wood, and I'm a second year in FA here. And my question, I had to write it down because I learned a lot just now. That was overwhelming. But my question was, one of the first things you talked about was Terry Atkins and him being here. And I've heard a lot about Terry Atkins, and I know a few of my mentors were mentored by Terry as well. And as someone who doesn't have Terry here, or that kind of like, I guess, family, uncle figure, and someone to like push you, but also nurture you within like this place of all places, how would you navigate that? Because there's things I want to do in my work that I want to go all the way, but there's a sort of body I'm in and parameters of, I guess, protection.
Like, in hindsight, you can always be like, idealize this is a great experience, but like, the reason why my experience with Terry was so great, because there was a lot of contention and heads butting in the experience, especially from being like a queer black student in a world where I think a black masculinity was championed because it's tougher to kind of penetrate a certain kind of white art world that scared a lot of people performing as a black artist in the 90s. Why people assimilated to modernist aesthetics to kind of infiltrate the system. So for me, it was a lot of my resistance against Terry that was actually making me grow. To only find out in hindsight, I was just like that motherfucker. I mean, goddamn, I'm like, whoa, I'm that man. I am that man. I am that man. Okay. So what was fun to, I remember when he got the Rome Prize and went away for a year, I was like, thank God he's gone for a year. No, but I loved him, you know, I mean, and then, you know, Terry was the kind of person, Terry would call me at 3 in the morning. What the fuck you doing? I said, Terry, I'm working on my website. You careerist motherfucker. You can make some sculptures. And I went, okay, great. And he still walk in my studio barefoot and like critique me and all this stuff. And for me, I was vulnerable. And it was just great, because in a way I was talking back. It was like a song with Trick Daddy and Trinidad or something, if anyone said.
Like, you don't know nothing.
That's what I'm saying, like all these stories.
You know, it was great stories, and I think it was great, but at the same time, one thing I said the other day to someone, I was like, I wouldn't be who I am without the pushback of so many politics as growing up in the, you know, the adversarial critiques of being a person of color working in a subjective and creative field. Like, I think, you know, when the alliances balance out, I think that Black people especially will have staying power because of what we had to push against in order to survive just for mediocre kind of accolades, to get that third place scholarship in graduate school. Like, and when we really should have got first place scholarship in graduate school. But anyway, so what I'm saying is, it's like, I definitely feel like I have enough autonomy to last forever and just keep, you know, genuinely meditating because of that pushback. But what I learned from Terry is just, you know what I did learn from him? What I loved about Terry the most is that the first thing he did to all his students when you got there is he came for all of your heroes. So I'm not gonna say who, but he'll come for the most seminal. He'll like literally, like he would attack the most seminal Black artists in the art world who he thinks you would look up to, and he was like, yeah, she a big fat mammy. Or he'd be like, don't say that, that's really crazy. And you're like, no, that's really crazy, don't say that. But what was interesting is like he took a lot of the glitter away and the spectacle, and he made the, you know, you wasn't disillusioned, like, you know, it's just really, it was really powerful. I couldn't ask for a better person to be around. And what was great about that experience with him is that he also like taught all of his students to embrace cosmology and a lot of philosophy and theory about looking at the stars and the universe, the macro, in order to really figure out how to make a lucid approach to resolving your own conceptual entity. So I naturally have always looked to the cosmos as a reference to the way that I'm dealing with my formalist methodology. So you'll see a lot of like references to just like, I guess that's why world building and lexicons and legends and language and making myself eccentric and building a sculptural paradigm around my queer identity probably came from those teachings, but it was very like not some fancy romantic thing, you know? I have teachers at Penn who, all my teachers were great. Jackie was the baddest motherfucker in the game. Like, what are you talking about? Like, are you serious, Jackie? You know what I love about my relationship with Jackie is that, like, one thing we have in common is we are like, you and me are like Wendy Williams when it comes to art theory and art. We're like, ooh, she is doing that coach shit today. Like, I don't know if that's right now. Like, Jackie's very about, like, Jackie knows the climate and knows the world, and she's a great teacher, and she made me comfortable with that side of myself that was really putting my head to the floor for what the collective conversation was happening at the time. And Joshua Mosley was super sensitive to materiality and sitting still with one part of the material, massaging it until it could become a powerful poetic experience. Like when I saw his piece at the Whitney Biennial and found out that it wasn't a 3D animation, it was a claymation, I never stopped thinking about that level of curiosity, that level of commitment. And so like everyone brought something to the table that left me stronger. And Terry did too, but Terry's thing took a lot longer for me to realize because it was just a wild, frenetic thing going on there, and I was like, okay. So in hindsight, I'm just like really grateful for my education. You know, Lewis Ginsburg and Matthew Rich were also super seminal experiences for me. They taught me to be free. They really made me feel like I was a somebody. That was really great. So it's not just that, you know, like I think that, you know, I'm grateful for everything. Okay, I guess we'll do another question. Okay, I guess. God, I forgot this is recorded. Me sounding like I'm at the corner store talking. You know.
My questions, I guess, maybe hitting home a little bit what you said about curiosity and commitment. I was going to ask about processing and grief and how it might relate to work, as it's something that I've been avoiding in my own creative process, and I feel like people might often like avoid thinking about their avoidance. And I guess I was going to ask, what if there were any, you know, creative difficulties when using your, I guess, like mother's machinations, like her drawings, like her, like, you know, recorded like voice, and making it work because you wholeheartedly like embrace it. And I think sometimes, at least as far as myself and others might be concerned, it might be too painful of a thing to make a source of inspiration.
So I believe in paradoxes, contradictions, and I believe in thunderstorms. I believe in hot and warm coming together to make friction. And so what's great about it is that, like, as a like my method of making is very toxic. One thing they say is if you combine your studio practice with your personal life and your own identity, it's a candle burning at both ends and it's bound to end in disaster. And I say, great, sign me up. Because I believe that but I am not a sociopath, but I want to say I have, when you say that, you might be. So well, I have this relationship where I don't think about the work sentimentally. I just know that that's something that I know the best, that I can bring into an objective kind of a modulation. I've been making art I've been committed to making art, even if it was my little stick figure, since I was like 4 or 5, and my mom drawing those drawings when I was a kid. I was like, I want to help you, because she had these. My dad who loved her, he would go to Refco or CVS and buy her these glitter crayons. Like, he would spend half of his check on her like Crayolas. Like, she had every dope crayon I've ever seen, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, and she was like, don't use my shit up. You gotta learn how to draw. And I was like, okay, so I learned how to draw. I drew Chun-Li and Ryu and Ken from Street Fighter. Like, Mom, look, perfect contours on point. So basically in a way that was my assimilating to her world was it was kind of how some people want to wear their mom's high heels and lipstick. I wanted to draw with a crayon. And so, I abandoned that. Once I got sick of her and as a kid and thinking I didn't understand what was happening, I was making my own paintings and playing my own video games, and I was in my own escapisms. But when I returned to that, it was because I might as well have been Forrest Best and Robert Gober. I would have used if that archive was found in the woods, I would have definitely said that this is very much so the kind of system and the language I want to derive my 3D animated experiences from. It was just a sculptural utility that I happen to know the best, and why would I leave that alone? And so, yeah, sometimes, but I'm such an obsessive person that I do lose perspective about what I'm doing. I get so into it and so into the formalities of it that it's no longer about myself anymore. That's why I have, an extreme sense of disembodiment with the work, and I'm I don't care about my nudity or my pain or putting myself in a very unhealthy situation in order to execute an endurance performance piece, or how I use my own personal autobiography in a vulnerable way, because it's all a material at the end. I almost died a couple of times in my life, so I just realized, I'm not supposed to be here anyway, so why not just make it a material to kind of leave a mark in the world. Like that piece at the Fabric Museum, Room for Doubt, is about that, where I was obsessively making Caravaggio's drawing. Caravaggio's painting Doubting Thomas. I was making that, I was drawing that drawing the painting, drawing myself in that painting since I was 17 years old, over and over, and I didn't know why I was appropriating that painting over and over. And then the last iteration of it, which is at the Fabric Museum, I started to think about it more, and I was like, well, this is an allegory about skepticism, and the reason why that allegory was really, really distributed in religious history is because it was an allegory to convince people in having faith. And it was allegory about the skeptic, and it was supposed to introduce, society into the concept of faith and ritual. And then I thought about, St. Thomas the skeptical over Jesus living, and he's showing his wound. And this is something I want to keep, remaking. And then I realized after beating cancer when I was 12, I felt like this inauthenticity with my mortality. And the first thing I did with my cast on was to make a drawing. I made a drawing of Madonna in real life. It's really funny. And it's in my room. And so I realized that ever since then, I feverishly made art and committed to my practice as an artist to prove to myself and to the world that I was alive, because I was the skeptic. And every drawing is the wound. Every painting is the wound. Every sculpture is the wound. And so my relationship as a maker is like that. And that's what I mean, how I can bring in the sentimental internal spaces and take it all the way to this public appropriation and reroute it back to that just through making it over and over again. And I've been saying this, like Lady Gaga says, 99 people in a room. My version is, I have extreme curiosities, and curiosities are like an infection. And you know what you have to do with an infection? You have to massage that boil until you lance it. Get that pus out, get that infection. And that's what it is. And that's like my relationship with things. I'm just an extreme guy. But it doesn't mean shit. So.
Thank you.
All right. Oh, is there more? Any more? Okay.
Chloe, I think we can do one more.
Okay, one more.
Thank you. Great talk.
Thank you.
I find myself selfishly wanting to learn more about your world, and I know that's kind of like, there's so much to learn about it, so it's kind of impossible to understand each
Oh, I'm still
facet.
learning.
But I'm curious about your figures in the videos that seem to outnumber you. I understand a lot of your work is about, or it relates to your queer blackness, and you putting yourself in the work and, voguing is kind of the epitome of our association of queer blackness, but your figures have no color or have many colors.
Wait,
Yeah, of course. They're either opaque or translucent. They're either hyper-masculine or void of gender, or even pregnant, or giving birth, or kind of bizarrely vaginal. So I find myself extremely curious about these faceless figures that, I hope you want me to notice, because there are millions of them out there. So I was just curious, as your relationship with them, are they you? Are they opposing you? Are they supporting you? And I kind of want to know their function.
Oh, because the reason why queer blackness and voguing enters any critical dialogue is like me exhausted, my mouth is dry, and we're just doing some abbreviation to get the interview over with, but God would like him to want no more to be assigned with the lexicon of voguing, because it's not that. It's like, I'm naturally a part of that language, because when I was in South Carolina, I was in the hellscape of certain ball scenes, and whatever. But there's certain default movements that can relate to things that I was inspired by modern dance, and Teresa the Piercemaker, or William Forsythe, and then also Willie Ninja. But for me, the movement is not voguing. It is me, I was working with potential utilitarian objects that came from this archive of drawings. And when I'm in front of the green screen, I'm pretending to move it in ways that can, give permission to make harmonious, dynamic compositions. Like if my body's like this, it's a 45-degree angle, and when you do 400 duplicated figures of me doing different angles, I can construct very beautiful Bachian tableaus with the multiplicity and find a much more interesting, it was just a formal thing. It had nothing to do with the agenda. I'm not pushing anything like that forward. So what I'm trying to say is that for me, I'll have that conversation if I have to, because I have the authority to have that conversation. But at the end of the day, I want to neutralize it as much as possible, because my body in the work isn't even a body. It's just it's an agent that keeps a harmonious composition moving forward. It is my body is just a punctuation, like I'm writing a visual essay and I'm just a punctuation mark. I'm just a period and a comma and an exclamation point. And then the three figures, there's some other part of my grammar. It's all grammar. It's not about, in my work, nothing is, I am naturally a black person. It's already hard in these streets. Why would you give me more to talk about making the work? But it's more like that. Sorry if I answered that correctly, but.
Thank you.
Okay, cool. Thank you.